My brother bought a house last spring, not a new house, one of those charming older homes with good bones and a lot of hidden problems. He called me over one Saturday to help him patch a wall in the master bedroom before they moved their furniture in. We were standing there with spackle and putty knives, and I noticed something strange. The wall wasn't just damaged in one spot, it was damaged in the same spot over and over again. Someone had patched it. Then someone else had patched over that patch. Then someone had covered the whole thing with thick wallpaper to hide the uneven surface. My brother peeled back a corner and just stared. Underneath all those layers of quick fixes, the drywall was crumbling. The stud behind it was warped from moisture. The foundation of that wall had been compromised for years, and instead of fixing the actual problem, every previous owner had just made it look nice from the outside. My brother turned to me and said something that I haven't stopped thinking about since. He said, "This whole house is a band-aid. The foundation is shifting, and nobody wanted to deal with it. They just kept covering it up until it was someone else's problem." And standing there in that empty bedroom with dust in my hair and a putty knife in my hand, I realized he wasn't just talking about drywall. He was talking about almost every modern relationship I've ever seen. The ones that look perfect from the outside, the ones with the beautiful Instagram photos and the anniversary posts and the matching outfits, the ones where everyone says, "Oh, they're such a great couple." But underneath, the foundation has been shifting for years, and instead of fixing the foundation, they keep applying surface-level fixes. A nice vacation to patch the resentment, an expensive gift to cover the silence, a promise to change that gets broken by Tuesday, a couples therapy session that becomes just another item on the to-do list. And then one day, seemingly out of nowhere, the wall crumbles, the relationship ends, and everyone stands around saying, "I never saw it coming, they seemed so happy." But the foundation was cracked the whole time. Today I want to talk about that foundation, the one thing that is killing modern relationships more than cheating, more than money problems, more than distance. The one thing that most couples don't see coming because it doesn't look like a problem. It looks like normal life. So get comfortable. Let's talk about why modern relationships are actually failing. If you're finding real value in these conversations, hit subscribe and turn on the notifications. I'm building something here for men who want to understand relationships on a level that actually prevents them from falling apart. Next week, I'm going deep into the exact repair techniques that rebuild a foundation once you realize it's cracked. You do not want to miss that one. The first sign that your foundation is cracked is that you're solving surface problems instead of structural ones. This is the most common pattern I see in modern relationships. Couples fight about the dishes. They fight about the texting. They fight about who forgot to pick up the dry cleaning. They fight about the in-laws, the vacation plans, the thermostat setting, the toilet seat. And they think they're fighting about those things. They think if they can just agree on the dishes, if they can just compromise on the vacation, if he can just remember to put the seat down, everything will be fine. But those aren't the real problems. Those are symptoms. The real problem is almost always that one or both people feel emotionally unsafe. They feel like their partner isn't really on their team. They feel like they have to manage the relationship alone. They feel like their needs are invisible. And instead of addressing that terrifying truth, they argue about the dishes. Because arguing about the dishes is manageable. Arguing about whether you actually feel loved is not. It's too vulnerable. It's too risky. It might reveal that the relationship doesn't have what it takes. So couples spend years solving surface problems. They buy organizers for the closet. They download apps to communicate better. They read books about love languages. They schedule date nights. And all of those things are fine. But they're wallpaper over crumbling drywall. They're patches on a wall with a warped stud behind it. Until you address the structural issue, the feeling of emotional safety, the feeling of being chosen, the feeling that your partner sees you and chooses you every single day, the surface problems will keep coming back. Different dishes, different fights, same foundation. The second sign is that your relationship has become a scorecard. Modern relationships are drowning in scorekeeping. I did this for you, so you owe me that. I compromised last time, so it's your turn. I make more money, so you should do more housework. I planned the last 3 dates, so you better plan the next one. This transactional energy has become so normalized that people think it's healthy communication. It's not. It's a symptom of a foundation that has lost its generosity. When a relationship is solid, both people are giving from a place of abundance. They don't keep score because they're not afraid of being depleted. They trust that their partner is also giving, so they don't need to monitor the exchange rate. But when the foundation is cracked, when emotional safety is low, people start protecting themselves. They start counting. They start making sure they're not giving more than they're getting. Because on some level, they know that if they give too much without reciprocation, they'll be left empty. And that scorecard mentality, while it feels like self-protection, is actually relationship poison. It turns love into a business transaction. It turns partnership into a negotiation. And it creates an environment where every gesture is weighed, every kindness is measured, and every mistake is added to the debt column. I talked to a couple last year who had been married for 8 years, and the wife told me she had a mental spreadsheet of every time her husband had disappointed her. She could recite dates, she could recite specifics, and he had his own spreadsheet of her failures. They weren't married anymore. They were opposing attorneys in a case that had no judge and no verdict. Just endless litigation. And the tragedy was that they both genuinely loved each other. But the foundation of generosity had cracked, and they were trying to hold the house up with accounting. The third sign is that silence has become comfortable. Not the good kind of silence. Not the peaceful silence of two people who are so connected they don't need words. The heavy silence of two people who have stopped trying. They've stopped sharing because sharing led to misunderstanding. They've stopped expressing because expressing led to conflict. They've stopped hoping because hoping led to disappointment. So they settle into a quiet coexistence that looks like peace from the outside but feels like loneliness on the inside. This is one of the most dangerous signs because it doesn't look like a problem. It looks like maturity. It looks like stability. It looks like we don't fight anymore. But you don't fight anymore because you've given up. You've accepted that your partner will never truly understand you. You've accepted that the connection you wanted is not possible. You've accepted that this is just what marriage is, and that acceptance is death. Not dramatic death. Slow, quiet death. The death of two people who live in the same house but no longer inhabit the same emotional world. I remember talking to a man in his 50s who told me, with a completely straight face, that he and his wife hadn't had a real conversation in 3 years. I asked him what they talked about. He said, logistics, the kids, the bills, what time dinner is, that's it. I asked him if he was happy. He said, I don't think about it anymore. That sentence broke my heart, because that's what happens when the foundation cracks and nobody repairs it. You stop thinking about it. You stop hoping. You stop believing that anything better is possible. And you just exist in the silence until one of you dies or one of you leaves. Let me pause here and ask you something honest. When was the last time you and your partner had a conversation that wasn't about logistics? Drop the word real in the comments if you're starting to see what I'm talking about. I want to know who's really hearing this. The fourth sign is that you've become roommates who happen to share a bed. This one is so common in modern relationships that people have started calling it normal. But it's not normal. It's a broken foundation. When the romantic energy, the playful energy, the flirtatious energy disappears from a relationship, most couples assume it's just the passage of time. We're just comfortable now. The honeymoon phase is over. That's just what happens when you've been together for years. But those are excuses. They're justifications for not doing the work. The truth is that romantic energy doesn't die from time. It dies from neglect. It dies from two people who stop seeing each other as lovers and start seeing each other as business partners in the enterprise of daily life. And modern life makes this so easy. The jobs are demanding, the kids are exhausting, the phones are distracting, the bills are stressful. And slowly, without anyone noticing, the relationship gets pushed to the bottom of the priority list. Not because anyone decided that, but because everything else feels more urgent. And the relationship, unlike the job or the bills, doesn't scream for attention. It just quietly withers. Until one day you realize that the person sleeping next to you feels like a stranger. And the idea of being romantic with them feels awkward, not exciting. That awkwardness is the canary in the coal mine. It means the foundation has cracked so deeply that intimacy itself feels foreign. And when intimacy feels foreign, the relationship is no longer a relationship. It's a living arrangement. And living arrangements can be ended with a 30-day notice. The fifth sign, and this is the one that actually matters most, is that you've lost the ability to repair. This is the foundation crack itself. This is the thing that separates couples who last from couples who don't. Every relationship has conflict. Every relationship has disappointment. Every relationship has moments where one person fails the other. That's not the problem. The problem is whether the relationship has the capacity to repair. And in modern relationships, repair capacity is at an all-time low. People don't know how to apologize anymore. They don't know how to take responsibility without defending themselves. They don't know how to listen to hurt without getting angry. They don't know how to come back together after they've been pulled apart. Instead, they sweep things under the rug. They say, let's just move on, without actually processing what happened. They pretend everything is fine because addressing the wound feels too dangerous. And every time they do that, the foundation cracks a little more, until eventually the structure can't hold anymore. The ability to repair is the single most important factor in whether a relationship survives. Not compatibility, not chemistry, not shared interests, not similar backgrounds. The ability to repair. Because if you can repair, you can survive anything. If you can't repair, even small problems become fatal. A forgotten anniversary becomes evidence of not caring. A harsh word during stress becomes evidence of not loving. A moment of inattention becomes evidence of not choosing. And without repair, those wounds don't heal. They accumulate. They fester. They become the reason she stops trusting you. They become the reason he stops opening up to you. They become the reason you both stop believing that the relationship is worth fighting for. And once that belief is gone, the relationship is over, even if nobody has said the words yet. So what is the number one reason modern relationships fail? It's not cheating. It's not money. It's not falling out of love. It's not growing apart. It's the slow, invisible erosion of the foundation caused by the inability or unwillingness to repair. Every relationship has cracks. Every wall gets damaged. But the couples who last are the ones who stop patching the surface and start fixing the structure. They learn to have the hard conversations. They learn to apologize without excuse. They learn to listen without defending. They learn to come back to each other after conflict instead of retreating to their corners. They learn to make the relationship more important than their ego. And they do this not because it's easy, but because they understand that the foundation is everything. The house can be beautiful, the furniture can be expensive, the paint can be perfect. But if the foundation is cracked, the whole thing will eventually come down. And in modern relationships, everyone is focused on the paint. Everyone is focused on the furniture. Everyone is focused on how the house looks from the street. But nobody is checking the foundation. Nobody is looking at the structural integrity. Nobody is asking, do we actually know how to repair? And that's why most couples don't see it coming. Because the foundation doesn't announce itself. It doesn't make noise. It just quietly shifts until one day the wall falls. And by then, it's too late. If this conversation opened your eyes, hit that like button so more people who need this can find it. Subscribe and turn on the bell if you want to keep going deeper on building relationships that actually last. Drop a comment below with the number of the sign that hit you the hardest. And if you know someone who keeps applying wallpaper to crumbling walls, send this to them. Not because they're failing, but because they deserve to know what's really happening underneath the surface. Until the next time we talk, stay calm, stay honest, and stay willing to repair. This is Mind of Connection. I'll see you soon.